Today we're looking at turning percentages into fractions, and this is grade G, YouTube channel Stepney Learning. So before we start, let's look at this word percent. In particular, let's look at the last four letters, the ones in red, cent. Think of other words that you know that contain cent. Well, one word I can think of is century, and as you know, a century means 100 years. So 48% simply means 48 out of 100. Okay, so 48 out of 100. We can write that as a fraction and it will look like this: 48 divided by 100, or 48 out of 100. Now that is it. We've turned this percentage into a fraction, but this can be simplified. Because both these numbers are even, we can divide them both by 2 and make them smaller. If we divide 48 by 2, we get 24, or if we half 48, we get 24, and if we half 100, we get 50. But again, if you look at these numbers, they're both even numbers, which means they can be simplified even more. We can divide them both by 2, and we get this: half of 24 is 12, and half of 50 is 25. Now it's better to write it underneath like this, with the equals lining up. And that is it. That's 48% written as a fraction, but in its simplest form would be 12 out of 25, or 12 over 25. Let's do another example. For example, 80%. Well, 80% means 80 out of 100. They can be simplified because both these numbers are even numbers, which means we can half them both, and we get this: half of 80 is 40, half of 100 is 50. But again, it's better to write it with the equals lining up. Again, these are even numbers, which means we can half them or divide them by 2, and we get that: half of 40 is 20, or 40 divided by 2 is 20, and half of 50 is 25. Better line it with the equals lining up. Finally, can we simplify this anymore? Well, 2 doesn't go into them because 25 is not in the 2 times table. 3 doesn't go into both of them, and although 4 goes into 20, 4 does not go into 25. 25 is not in the 4 times table. Let's move on to number 5. Does 5 go into 20? Yes, 20 is in the 5 times table. Is 25 in the 5 times table? Yes. So how many times does 20 go in? How many times does 5 go into 20? Sorry, 5 go into 20. It goes into 24 times. And how many times does 5 go into 25? It goes into it 5 times. So we can write it like this: 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. But again, it's better to write it with the equals line up. So 80% of the fraction is 80 over 100, but in the simplest form would say is 4 over 5. Let's do one last example. Let's do 4%. Now 4% again just means 4 out of 100, which we can write like this: 4 out of 100. Now, because they're even numbers, means we can half them both. So half of 40 is 2, and half of 100 is 50, which can be written like this. So remember, keep the equals in line. Again, they're both even numbers, which means we can half them both, and we get this. Okay, because 20 divided by 2 is 1, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. So 4% as a fraction is 4 out of 100, but in the simplest form, it is equal to 1 out of 25, or 1 over 25.